Hey guys, Laura Mason with Daily Dose of the Good News. My way of encouraging everyone to get into their Bibles daily because I think it's so important and it certainly changed my life drastically. And today we've been going through the book of Luke, and today we are in Luke 17. And there are three kind of subjects going on in this particular chapter. We've got the one about the shrewd steward. And then he gets into talking about divorce a little bit, and then the rich man and Lazarus, not to be confused with Lazarus who is risen from the dead. This is thought to be just a generic name that was given to this person. So the three subjects can seem a little bit unrelated, but in my handy guidebook that I've been reading, it states that it was three areas where the Pharisees thought they had justified themselves in what they were saying, and he was still at a point where I don't know if he's still at the dinner with the Pharisees, but it's a point where he's kind of talking to them or about them if they're close by, I think. And the first one had some great verses I think are really important to remember. So, verse 10 says, "He who is faithful in a very little thing is faithful also in much, and he who is unrighteous in a very little thing is also unrighteous in much." And it reminded me of the verses, where it talks about those who have much, much is also expected. But this is also where I think a lot of times God tests us and tries us with small amounts of things to see where our heart truly is and can we handle larger things. Another verse in here that I'm sure many people have heard repeated is verse 13, and it says, "No servant can serve two masters. You either hate one and love the other, or you'll be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve wealth and God." And the two masters could be anything, but I'm thinking maybe wealth was brought out because it's often such a difficult thing for people to have and still love God above all. And it's important to remember it's not the wealth. There's absolutely nothing wrong with wealth. We should all strive to do our best. And if whatever we're doing is making us a lot of money, that's wonderful. But the goal is going to be to keep God at the forefront of your life, keep a kingdom perspective on your life, and He will give you, the godly wisdom, discernment to know what to do with that money. There's just so many great things that can be used with money. It can be used as a tool to further the kingdom of God, and that's the most important thing that we can do for everyone. Let's go to, let's see, this had a couple of comments about that particular passage. It says, "So one thing in this story, what one does with present opportunity affects him in this life and the next. Furthermore, one's true relationship to God and man may be reflected in matters of material things." So that's probably another reason why wealth was mentioned, as in people can't serve God and money. It says, "Only by yielding to the sovereignty of God may one be delivered from the tyranny of materialism. There is no better place in which to find one's true God and one's true joy than in looking to God for deliverance from the love of money that is the root of all kinds of evil." It's not the only root of evil, but there's just so many evil things that can come from the love of money. And there's so many things that could be said about that particular one, but we'll go on to the next where this one I had to dig into a little bit because it was talking about divorce, and it mentions how basically it makes you think any divorce is considered adultery. And I know that there are absolutely some exceptions to that. It's very limited, but certainly in cases of abuse or things like that, God would not want you to stay in that situation. But in this book, it stated that It said many of the Pharisees thought that a man might divorce his wife for any reason. Didn't know about that. From a poorly prepared meal, or because he found someone else more attractive. And they thought that was completely appropriate. So that's why he's addressing divorce in that section. And then the last topic that we get to is the rich man and Lazarus. And this is where the rich man has, before he passes away, Lazarus is just a really poor person, not a real person in real life. This is a parable. But Lazarus is at the rich man's gate, and he's very poor and he's very sickly, and Lazarus does nothing to help him. And Lazarus ends up going to heaven, and the rich man ends up going to hell. And the rich man doesn't really understand, I think, why this has happened. He's kind of a bit, poor me. I just wasn't told the right way or something. And he asked, Lazarus is in heaven with Abraham, and he asked Abraham if Lazarus can just dip his finger in water and put it on his lips. And of course, Abraham is like, no, there's no crossing. Like one can't go from one to the other. And then Lazarus just asked if someone can go back and tell his 5 brothers about what has gone on. And Abraham is like, well, they have Moses, they have the prophets, that they need nothing else. And it's the same case for us. We have absolutely everything we need to fully know what is following God and what is not following God, and that would end us up in hell. And it's just a matter of using this as your tool to learn God, know God more, but also faith is going to be a big part of that happens. And God is the one that gives us faith, but we can pray for more faith and pray for the faith needed to come to salvation in Him. And so the one verse I wanted to point out in here was verse 25, and it says, this is Abraham talking to the rich man while he's in hell. And Abraham said, "Child, remember that during your life you received your good things, and likewise Lazarus bad things. But now he is being comforted here, and you are in agony." So this, I thought, is a good way to illustrate what, when Jesus said earlier, I think it was earlier in Luke and probably a number of other Gospels, he said, those who are first now, as in on the earth, will be last in the afterlife, and vice versa. And it's because those who are not following Jesus are getting all of the reward that they could ever want while they're on earth. So there's no more reward for them to get in heaven. Whereas those who are followers of Christ, just following Him is a reward enough, in my opinion, on earth. But our true inheritance and riches are going to happen in our afterlife. One other verse was the last one. And this is, I already alluded to this, but it said, if they do not listen to Moses and the prophets, they will not be persuaded, even if someone rises from the dead. So it's the same for today. Some people will say, well, if I could just see it with my own eyes. And that's not how it works, because your faith has to come into play somehow. And let's see. Seeing if I had anything noted from this one. Okay, so this was one thing I had not thought about, but I did allude to you guys a minute ago. For Lazarus, Lazarus, after he's in hell, is effectively saying, if I had been adequately warned, I would not have ended up this way. And it's just a poor way to be. He's basically saying it's somebody else's fault, which is clearly shows there's no following of Christ, or even attempt there. He's blaming it on someone else. So those were the main things I wanted to share. I know there were some good things in my chronological Bible as well, but just good reminders that that with the shrewd steward, he was putting money above of his servant or his master, and remembering money is not evil. Having it is not evil, but worshiping it is evil. Putting it above God is evil. And yeah, just remember that we have everything that we need to share with people about what they need to know to get into heaven, but also to have a rewarding life while you're here on earth. And it's our job to share, because it really is sad how many people don't realize that they need Jesus in order to have a good afterlife. Many people don't really even understand what sin is, and it's our job to tell them. So thanks for joining me today. And tomorrow we will go over Luke 17. Y'all have a great day.